Okay, today I'm going to be showing you the Roland TR-909. I'm pretty much sure most of you know what this machine is. If you don't, you've definitely heard it because it's been used pretty much in every techno tracks for the last 20 years and house tracks. I mean, not exclusively, but it's a very popular machine. Now, this machine has got individual outputs for every sound. It's got MIDI connections and it's got a sync connection as well. And it's also got a memory cartridge port. Now, if you can find one of these are quite rare. This is the M64C. This is basically a cartridge that was used on the 909, 707, 727. I think the JX8P was used it as well. I mean, there's a lot of machines that use these, so these are out there. Just search around on eBay, you'll probably find one. That's the M64C. I'm just going to plug that in, and I'll show you in a little while how that works. But there's very many revisions of the 909. A lot of people don't know. This one is ROM version number one. It's quite an early machine, um, but basically, if you can check your serial number, I'll just quickly tell you what the differences are. If you've got a serial number up to 370600, the only difference is that they changed the battery door on machines after that from a plastic to a metal door. If you've got a serial number higher than 381500, they changed a capacitor on the tuning of the bass drum, and they also changed something to do with tape sync. I'm not quite sure, but that's not important. No one uses tape sync anymore, do they? If you've got one that's got a serial number from 393000 and upwards, they also changed a diode in the power supply. Now, this is actually, if you have an earlier one, I recommend you do this. I had to do this to mine. Basically, the diode in question is D701, and that's in the power supply. Basically, if you get a spike on the line, or if you've got sort of bad power in the house, especially in winter, the machine can reset itself just randomly, which is really irritating. It's just a simple diode change. It's a 5.6 volt Zener diode, and it's very simple to replace. It's, just unsolder it, replace it, and you're done. And it will give you a lot more stable operation under worse power conditions. If you've got one from serial number 415300 and upwards, they changed the rimshot sound very slightly. And finally, if you've got one from 426700 and upwards, they also changed the tuning on the toms. Now, I've got an early version. The only thing that's been changed on this is I changed the diode and the power supply because I was having troubles with that. But if you want to know what ROM version you've got, there's 4 different ROMs. Basically, you hold the track play button as you power the machine on, and you see the first light that shows up here. This is number 1. This means version 1 ROM. This will go to 1 to 4. There's 4 different versions of the ROM. Now, if you've got an early version, number 1 ROM, there is actually a bug. If you're in track play, under certain circumstances, when you're writing tracks, you can actually corrupt the memory. It just basically crashes the machine. You can change the ROM. It's quite a big job. I'm going to do mine at some point, but it's just getting around to it. So this is where the memory cartridge is good. So you can, if you're going to write a track, you can just save your contents of your memory to your cartridge before you attempt that. And if you have a problem, you can always go back and rewrite the track. I mean, I've had a situation where I've lost all the patterns, but then I went on and wrote better patterns. So maybe it was just a thing that was meant to happen. Also, if you want to reset the memory back to factory defaults, you can, when you power it on, instead of holding just the track play, you hold track play and pattern play as you switch it on. It'll reset, it will clear all the memories and load up the demonstration song. But I'm going to show you that in a bit as well. And if I run over 10 minutes because of the YouTube limit, I'll have to make this a 2-part video. So basically, if you're in track play mode and you press some keys, you can actually hear the instruments. And I'm pretty sure you're familiar with those sounds. You've got basically 4 tracks that you can use, and you've got 3 banks of 16 patterns. You've also got a second bank of the same, so you actually get 6 banks of 16, which is quite a lot of memory. And you've got some various other functions where you can copy and paste patterns to one another and copy the entire contents of the memory to the cartridge. But first thing, another thing that people don't realise is instead of just pressing the the 16 steps to enter your notes. You've also got a tap mode. When you're in tap mode, whatever note instrument you hit on the keyboard here will be put into the track. You've also got shuffle, which everyone's quite familiar with, I'm sure. And you've got flam, which is like a double hit. I'll show you that in a bit as well. And one other thing, it's not a secret, but people just don't use it. You can actually use the 909 as an external MIDI sequencer. I mean, it's very limited. Each instrument key will correspond to a note in an octave. So you've only got 16 notes essentially. But if you've got something hooked up to the MIDI, you can then use this as a sequencer as well as your drum track. And a thing to note is when you clear a drum track, a drum pattern, it doesn't clear the external instrument data. And likewise, if you clear the external instrument data, it won't clear the pattern data. So you have to do both as a clear. So basically, the first thing, we put it into pattern mode, and you press Shift and pattern play, number 1. This will start flashing. It means it's ready for writing. So if I press start, the sequencer starts, and I can press the instrument select button, and I can select any instrument that's here. You've got the accents here. This is the total accent over everything. So I'm just going to put some total accents in. And then I'm going to choose the bass drum. Now, some of the instruments have double positions. So basically, you can get with the total accent and the accent on the buttons, you can actually get 3 levels of accent. So you press the button once, twice, you get the higher level of accent. So I mean, you pretty much recognise this sound. And then I can just I can choose another instrument. And you can put them in. You can put double accents on some of those as well. And of course, the good old hi-hat, open hi-hat. And then let's add some snare drums. Some claps. Rim shot. Ride cymbal. And the toms. And you recognise those sounds, but that's just normal step entry. So if I go to pattern number 2 and I start it again, it's clear. And if I hold the shift this time, first off I'll just put some accents in. Oh, those are crashes. Make sure I press the right button there. Okay, I'll choose the accents. I'll put some accents in and I'll put some bass drums in, so I've got something to listen to when I tap the notes in. So basically, then you hold the shift button, and you see it says tap here. It's in step mode at the moment. If I press this button here with the shift, it's now in tap mode. Now every instrument key here will correspond to an instrument in the memory. So if I can just tap snare in. As you can see, the tap mode I actually prefer the tap mode. If you've got something to listen to synchronise it, I kind of prefer that for entry. But then again, you've got step mode as well. So we'll go back to normal step mode. And I'll show you how to copy some patterns. The copying on this is pre-computer, so whereas on a computer you copy then you paste. On this one you have to select the destination and then do the copy from the pattern. So it's kind of backwards.